Hello, this is Peter Scanlan, Marvel Masterpieces 1995 artist, and you're listening to the Marvel Card Collector Podcast.
Hello everybody, my name is Ian Taylor and welcome to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast, brought to you by the Marvel Cards Fan Collective, an awesome community of card collectors and creators. Find our two groups on Facebook, details of which are at the end of this podcast, so come check us out. With me is my co-pilot in all things Marvel cards. It's May already, and may I just say, you have the most beautiful eyes, sir. It's Norrin Ryan.
That's so nice. Again, amazing compliments. I think you just do this to get me like hyped. I think that's just what it is.
Yeah, it's my way of fluffing. I like to fluff you before we...
Bringing out dirty dermatology. Okay.
Well, dirty dermatology.
Dirty terminology. Oh, kind sir.
I quite like the idea of dirty dermatology.
Terminology.
Anyway,
you're welcome.
We're in the dirt, and we've barely been on for 30 seconds. So, welcome everybody. Hope you're staying well wherever you're listening to us from today. It's not just Norrin and I today. There's two other fine gentlemen on this podcast today. Both of whom you've heard before. So we're very fortunate to have Chris Mixer, who was on the last couple of weeks' episodes, who will need no introduction, but he's going to get an introduction anyway, who writes for Non-Sport Update about sketch cards and has a wonderful blog and does some great YouTube videos about sketch cards as well. And you can find him on Twitter at Sketchcards. Am I right there, Chris?
That's correct. One word, sketch cards. Glad to be with you guys.
No problem at all. It was my hesitation was I couldn't remember if there was a plural, if there was an S on the end.
Very good.
And I didn't want to send people to @Sketchcard by mistake because they don't work hard enough for their followers. And the other young man on the call today with us is friends of the podcast who know him as Kevin Number One. We know him as Kevin St. Jack. Welcome, sir.
Good morning. How's everyone?
Wonderful, brother.
All right. I have my cup of tea. Norrin, I know you don't drink coffee, so you won't have coffee.
I don't. No.
So I'm sure everyone else is probably fueled up. So when we did part one of sketch card history with Kevin,
yes,
we talked about Fleer Ultra Spider-Man, and I want to say 97. Because that's the one I always get the year mixed up. We talked about Marvel Creators Collection and the Silver Age from 98. All three of which featuring sketchographs, as they were then called. And then we segued nicely into Topps Legends from 2001, where I believe they were called Comic...
Custom Cover.
Custom Covers, there we go. I knew it had the word cover in it somewhere. And then in my mind, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, it all went a bit quiet on the Marvel sketch cards front for a few years.
That's correct. The last Topps one was 2003, and then it lay dormant till 2006, and then Rittenhouse came in with Complete Avengers.
Wow, okay. So that 2003 one, what was that? Because that wasn't on my radar.
The Incredible Hulk.
Okay. And was that anything in relation to the movie, or was it a separate set? Because I know there was a Hulk movie set that came around that time as well. There
was, yeah. This one was the movie one was Upper Deck, I believe, and then this one from Topps. So it just coincided with the release of the movie, I believe.
And from the Topps version for the Hulk, they had the same similar sketch card formatting as Marvel Legends, right? Where it had that kind of like Hulk logo with, that's awesome. Okay, yeah, because in the 2001 Marvel Legends, the custom covers were very different from sketchographs. Like the sketchographs had the layout of like the blue lines, like you would see on a comic book art page. And for Marvel Legends, it looked like a cover, like a comic book cover. It had this particular color on it, whatever color was associated with that character, and then the title of that character as you would see them on the of their comic book issues. Yeah, and then Hulk,
right.
I guess, did the same thing as well, considering it was from Topps.
If memory serves, it was actually the exact same card stock that was used in Marvel Legends with the same indicia on the back. The only way to tell the difference is which artist drew on the card.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes, because for
Wow.
Legends, wasn't it different artists with different levels of rarity?
Yeah.
Correct.
Or was it characters? It was
Both.
artists.
Both.
Okay. Interesting. All right. And then A Glorious Era dawned with Rittenhouse Archives picking up the baton, I guess getting the license in 2006. And it's fairly safe to say they ran with it. I'm going to start sharing my screen because both of you sent over some brilliant stuff, so thank you for that. The first thing I'm going to put up on my screen was just that list that you sent over earlier, Kevin. And for those listening, we will put all of this on the tasting notes for the episode, so you can go and check all this out. But suffice to say, it does start with 2006, The Complete Avengers.
So let me back up 1 second and say that Rittenhouse had been around for a couple of years as a company that mainly dealt in science fiction cards like Babylon 5, Star Trek, even Twilight Zone. So they were making sketch cards as early as 2001. 2006 was just their first Marvel set. But the other difference is that everything prior to 2006 was kind of like a repeat-a sketch where the artist would draw the same image over and over and over. And Complete Avengers would be the first time that every sketch would be unique.
Now, my question is, you guys are way more knowledgeable than I am at this. So for the sketchographs, that's how they were sold and marketed. So that's what they were given to these artists. And these artists were, character creators, right? You had Stan Lee, Joe, you had John, you had Joe Cena, you had quite a few different artists there. So they're told, okay, draw this character. And were they told to repeat those sketches? Was that the more convenient thing for them at the time?
Yeah, my understanding is prior to 2006, when you're dealing with science fiction entities, you're dealing with licensors and screenshots and personalities. So it had to be approved. And once a sketch card was approved by the licensor or the, actor that, accepted their likeness, then they just repeated that one over and over rather than trying to get approval for each individual card.
Clever. Fascinating. Yeah, because today sketch artists are given a huge document that they have to abide by. A bunch of rules, banned characters, things to avoid. And that was the way to get around that issue back then. Fantastic. Wow. Really interesting.
And am I right in thinking that from Complete Avengers, the sketches had to be color?
That's correct.
Are they full color? Yeah.
Yeah, they marketed it as the first set that was full color for all the cards. So that was
a
selling point. Full color.
Yeah, I love that because they say that on the sell sheet. So anybody out there who collects sell sheets and all this promotional material for these sets, you can see this even on the binders, full color, just absolutely amazing. Oh, so it makes more sense to me now. So on the Rittenhouse websites where we see all of the images of the sketch cards, the reason they were doing that is because of approvals. So they were sending those scans basically to Marvel anyway. Would that be correct?
You got me on that one.
Yeah, that could well be. I don't know.
Yeah, because Rittenhouse, the reason we're so giddy, everybody, so everybody knows why we're just like Rittenhouse is amazing, is because sketch cards are not only extremely hard to find, but extremely hard to count how many exist from one particular artist. And on Rittenhouse websites, which I believe are still up, I know I have them like PDF saved and all this kind of crazy stuff. But I think what's really great is that they would so you would find an artist on their list, and they would have the number of sketch cards they turned in to Rittenhouse. So you would know the actual number. And the other really interesting part was that you can click on the artist's name and you can get a preview image of a 9-page image of 9 sketch cards they did for that set.
Right.
And I don't know about you guys. So this is a question I wanted to ask both you, Kevin, Chris, and Kevin, and even Ian. I personally look for those sketch cards. Like if I see a surfer that was put on there and I see it pop up on eBay, it gives me an extra reason to get it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, right? Okay. I didn't know if I was being crazy or not, but I love that it's documented on the website, and it was basically like a preview card.
Yeah.
Well, what you're about to see when he goes to this complete Avengers list is they did not just do the 9-card preview. They scanned in every last sketch card they did.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Whoa.
This is what, here we go. Look, you see the multiple pages? So you can actually see, this is the beauty of this, is that you can, to this very day, you can go onto the Rittenhouse website, and I just navigated to products, archive products, and then you go down, you find Marvel on the list, and it gives you a wonderful grid page of every Marvel product with the release dates, actually. This is actually really, this is a brilliant resource. I was thinking earlier on, it would be great to actually pull together all the release dates of these and, flesh out that list that you'd sent over, Kevin. But it's all there. You don't need to do that. It's marvelously laid out, and you can go through this website and you can click on these images and you can see pages and pages, and it has the number of sketches that each artist actually contributed.
It's awesome. This set has to be
such a resource.
The most documented set there is that's been released.
Wow. And you never see these. So I'm sure this was basically, there's so many. Each artist did quite a few, more than I'm used to personally. I think the lowest number on here is
it's probably
100
80s or 50 or something like. It's one of Ian Duran or something like that.
Yeah, there's a guy there. Otis Frampton's got 100, but it's
Ian Duran.
Yeah. Oh yeah, Ian Duran has 77. Oh man, Duran's work is so good. I found a surfer on Google and I was just like blown away. Such cool materials. Mm-hmm. That's awesome.
Well, and what you forget is that prior to this set, these artists had not previously worked for Rittenhouse. And so they had to do a whole job of creating an artist list, unlike Topps, who could go back to the well again and again from previous artists. The Rittenhouse was starting from scratch with comic book artists, and each one had to apply. So I was talking to Don Hillsman, and he actually had to create a sample card and mail it for approval to work on the set. So each of these guys had to apply for their position.
Wow. That's so cool. What a great collection that I'm sure is out there of people having these sample cards. How fascinating. Wow.
And the other interesting thing about this set, of course, is that there was a limited sketch card from Stan Lee.
Oh yeah, that was
Which, Kevin?
He only did 100, so that's just like the Spider-Man that he did for
MCC 98, right? Or Silver Age.
Silver Age, yeah.
Silver Age.
And then 100 of the Captain America right there.
Yeah.
Damn.
And there it is. That's fabulous. I love it.
So which one's more rare? Is it, they're both amazing, but Stan, it doesn't really matter, obviously. But this one only has 100. What was the count on the sketchograph for Stan Lee Silver Age?
That was also 100.
Wow.
Interesting. That is very interesting. Okay, so Complete Avengers. It's kind of, when I discovered Rittenhouse was just after 2008, so Woman of Marvel had just landed, which was the second set that they had come down the pipe. And of course, Woman of Marvel for me was me chasing my tail with But the first one I became aware of from Rittenhouse was Spider-Man Archives, because the Marvel Masterpieces sets, which weren't Rittenhouse, are the ones that got me into sketch cards. And then I came back. So I kind of jumped on from 2009, but they had a couple of years between Avengers and Woman of Marvel. And from there on, you're looking at 2, 3, actually even 4 or 5 sets. 2014 had 4 sets in 1 year. So they had a good sort of 9-year run.
Well, and let me add that Marvel was not the only license that Rittenhouse had. They had a DC license. So they were even putting out DC sets in those years, like 2007 DC Legacy and 2008 Batman Archives.
Yeah, that was the Justice League of America. I think that was 2009.
And
so they
those
were
cards,
double dipping.
yeah, and those cards are just as well documented as well, and considered really highly sought after. Yeah, beautiful.
Well, and every time a set came out, they were evolving a little bit. So after the 2006 Complete Avengers, they put out the 2007 DC Legacy, and they did something new for DC Legacy that'll come into play when we get to Women of Marvel. 2007 DC Legacy was the first time they included archive boxes.
Oh, God.
Interesting. So for those who don't know, what's an archive box? I mean, we know what it is, but just lay that out for us.
In short, archive boxes have one of every type of card that can be found in a pack included in a single box, including one of every sketch card artist. So you might get 30, 40 sketch cards in an archive box. And for DC Legacy, only 50 total archive boxes were created, and a lot of them were inserted mysteriously in your case. Like, you wouldn't buy the archive box, you would just discover the archive box.
Oh, wow. That's interesting, because my experience of archive boxes has always been that they were an incentive if a dealer ordered 9 or 12 or 18 cases. So, you'd be getting a lot of the product in, and for that you would get an archive box. So in the same way a sketch card artist would get an artist proof for every, 50 sketch cards they might have done. But it started in a different way. It started as kind of a lottery style thing.
Well, and let me blow your mind. I'll skip a little bit to Women of Marvel. They included what was called marked and unmarked archive boxes. What that means is the marked ones would have a giant sticker on top that says this is an archive box.
Yeah.
A unmarked one, the sticker would be on the underside of the box lid. So you would actually unwrap and open the box before discovering it was an archive box.
Oh,
wow.
I would just lose my mind.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Chris, have you ever done that?
No. No.
I'm wondering if people still actually take a punt on those really old boxes just to see.
I actually knew someone who did, but of course it was for the Fantastic Four archive. I forgot who it was now. He might be in the group as well, but he took a hit and bought the box, and it was so cool to see every sketch card from every artist. It was so cool to see that range. I didn't really understand it from the perspective that Chris said, but that blows my mind. Really just blows my mind. That's fantastic. Well, and also, so the gold sticker archive and case exclusives, right? Was that started by Rittenhouse first as well?
Well, I believe so. I think, I don't know if any other companies utilize this archive box feature like Rittenhouse.
Yeah, because there were tier kind of levels of things you can do. So if you got, what was it? I believe there was a 9 case, not a 9 case, maybe like a 1 case archive exclusive and so forth. And then you could get like tiers of rarity. Like I know for Fantastic Four archive, you would have like a Bard exclusive, and then you could go ahead, go down the line as well. It's really fascinating.
I think lots of companies had been doing case topper cards, but they weren't very valuable. They were basically just an extra insert that said you bought a whole case. You're right. But what Rittenhouse started doing is adding these multi-case incentives that did have true value. Complete Avengers had a 2-case incentive that it was a cut comic book panel. That's right. And then a 6-case incentive that was a 5x7 sketch card by Cat Staggs.
That's right. Here we go.
That's right.
Let's just bring that up, because they are also listed on the Rittenhouse site, and all of them scanned in. There's 16 pages of them, so 16 by 9. You can work that out. 6-case incentive. They're absolutely stunning. The artwork on some of these, and for me, they're a significant in terms of Marvel, I get there's been sets that weren't Marvel property between 2001 and 2006 when Rittenhouse started doing the Marvel property, but in Marvel world that's a significant evolution, almost sort of overnight, I guess. It's from night and day. It's going from black and white telly to a 4K IMAX experience. But I'm just looking at some of these Cat Stag's Captain America cards, for example, that just happen to be on my screen at the moment. And they're just stunning.
Yeah, absolutely stunning.
Well, and in comparison, what Topps is doing the same time this set comes out, they're putting out Lord of the Rings and Star Wars 30th anniversary. So Topps is sticking with their black and white sketch cards, but of major licenses. Yeah. And so Rittenhouse wanted to put out something that kind of stood out against that.
Yeah. And then some. I mean, listen, I'm sure we've all got some. I've got a handful of Lord of the Rings sketch cards up here that I don't know what to do with because they're not my wheelhouse at all. But no, it's interesting how they've went up, because I was looking at the Women of Marvel one there, and of course, Women of Marvel, I've gone back and gotten some of these bits. So every case had an autograph card from Adam Hughes with Women of Marvel, and then for 3 cases you would get a Warren Martinek exclusive sketch card, and then 9 cases you had a 5x7 Alison Sohn painted card.
Well, and if you look at that bottom paragraph that says the archive boxes are the only place you could get sketch cards from Adam Hughes.
Oh, I've seen those. Those are insanely beautiful.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really, I guess we're talking, this is an era from before EPAC. This is an era where a lot of this is still very much the traditional system of dealers ordering product, and this is, I guess, designed to get the dealers to pre-order more product and get more of it out there.
Most definitely. You had to give the dealers an incentive to buy this product.
Wow.
Yeah.
They get these extra cards and they could sell. So
I think the one thing that haunts my dreams is the comic covers, the recreations done by Warren.
Yes.
I forget what set that is. It was an exclusive, an archive exclusive, right?
I'm trying to remember which set it was. It wasn't.
Was it Marvel Universe?
I think it was
May have been.
Marvel 70.
I think it was Marvel 70th. No, Marvel 70th. He did the Decades ones. Let's have a look, shall we? Because the joy of this.
Sorry, I brought up something completely random. It's
no, that's quite all right. Well, no, it kind of ties into it, because the interesting thing, and Kevin, this is very nicely illustrated from the examples that you sent that I'll go through in a minute, is that it very quickly, the artists very quickly started playing with the format in some quite interesting ways. I imagine to keep it interesting for themselves, but also with the volume of cards that we're seeing numbered here. Now, what I do find interesting is between Women of Marvel in 2008, where you still have the number of sketch cards listed, but you'll notice there that only half of the artists you can link to, which implies that they don't have the scans there of all these other artists. But then if you fast forward onto Marvel's 70th anniversary from 2010, so only another 2 years later, it's actually changed again. You can't click on any of the artist names, and they're listed on the Rittenhouse website as, I'm just going to take the first one, Adam Cleveland Limited, Adriano Carrion Extremely Limited, and above it says whether they did less than 50 it's scarce, 50 to 150 extremely limited, etc., etc. So I imagine the amount of work involved in actually documenting and counting all those sketch cards very quickly becomes, you can't keep up with it. But
the artist list extending as it is. I mean, I can only imagine. I mean, now we have artist lists that extend even further, right? Especially on more modern sets. I get all excited when
I'm going to make a guess that, and I can't prove this, but I think Rittenhouse was paying the artist more per sketch than Topps was, because they were demanding full color. They were, paying their artists better. And I think more and more artists wanted to work for Rittenhouse because of the pay increase.
That's interesting.
That would make sense.
And then
Absolutely sense.
I think that they didn't have all the scans at this time because they're doing more work now. If I remember correctly, they were scanning the cards themselves at their home or at their Rittenhouse office.
Wow.
Right. So
Wow.
if you're going from at 2006 or leading into 2006, you had a longer leave time coming into it, so you had time to document everything. But now that the ball is rolling over time, you're releasing 2-3 sets a year just for Marvel. So that's probably why we don't see as many scans.
Yeah, you can actually see it dropping off as you go through as well. It's interesting. The what I do find interesting about this as well is the artist proofs were the larger uncut 5x7 ones for pretty much every Rittenhouse set I've seen, actually. So the same size as those incentive cards. Is that something, because I've not seen anyone do that outside of the Rittenhouse era? Chris, have you? Is that something that you've seen as exclusive to Rittenhouse, or did other companies do that as well?
Well, my understanding is that Topps always mailed out sketch cards in their standard size. And even when they mail like baseball cards to be autographed by baseball players, they're mailed in their standard size. But there is the potential for damage to happen to the corners of the cards or whatever. And Rittenhouse always took so much pride in having their cards be in good condition that they mailed the oversized proofs. The artist would draw on them and they would be cut down after they were returned to the factory.
So every single sketch card that Rittenhouse did was 5x7 originally, and they were cut down for pack insertion.
Correct.
With the exception of the
Wow. Well, I know definitely Banks, the FFA set. I believe it was on his site. He actually uploaded all the 5x7s. So he must have scanned those before they got cut. And you can see how the art looks so much different because he really went outside the box. So it really extended everywhere. So fascinating to see that image difference too, though, and to see how the card kind of changes from that big size into being cut down as well, especially if they're going outside those blue border lines like they did in FFA and many of the other sets too.
If you look at Women of Marvel, a lot of their scans, you'll see the whole card, the 5x7.
well, let's have a look.
Really? Wow.
Let's have a look. Let's pick an artist.
So
Andy.
The one
Andy Price.
Let's do that one. Oh, you do. Look at that.
Oh, you do. Wow, that's it. Oh, hello. So I've just opened a page with a rather nice black cat in the middle. Thank you very much. I didn't plan this.
Right. So you could see the full image of how it to be before it was cut.
Wow.
There's some good Squirrel Girl stuff there for Jonathan Dunn and Frank Garnett. They'll be up for those. Good.
And then if I remember correctly, for the APs, they would come in the 5x7, but if you wanted it cut, they would cut it for you. But it would take longer. You got to get the approval, and then you got to send it in, get it cut, have it sent. But why would you want it cut?
Yeah, definitely don't want it cut.
Get more card.
I find it absolutely fascinating that you can still see all of this.
I love that.
Rittenhouse website, and it's just such a wonderful, rich archive of stuff to have. I mean, especially for those earlier sets. I think we've already seen from me just browsing through it now that it kind of drops off as you get later into the run of the series. So outside of their in fact, let's just quickly touch. You can see they did have some of the movie licensing here. They had the first Iron Man MCU movie before it went over to Upper Deck. And
I think that's also the card series that has the Downing autograph, right? The kind of big deal Robert Downing autograph card.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's the big one, right? Yeah.
Yeah, because he hasn't signed for much, from what I understand. But yes, so of course those movie sets also had sketch cards. So I'm just looking at the list here from Iron Man.
Wow. You got Kat, you got Justin on there, you got Sheen. Wow, Sean,
Ryan
that's
Cobb,
crazy.
Jason Sobel, Sean Pence. Some absolutely fantastic. A lot of these people are still very much active. Some of them have moved into different areas as well, of course. But it's just very interesting to me that the sketch cards remained a part of that throughout this. And what Rittenhouse seemed to have done is they've started to go for very much themed on different areas of the Marvel universe. So obviously starting with Complete Avengers, then you've got Women of Marvel, which is obviously much more generic, but then you've got Fantastic Four archives, you've got X-Men archives, Spider-Man archives, so they very much do like move that spotlight and give every kind of team or area of the Marvel universe its own kind of breathing room before they started to kind of, for want of a better word, mix it up a bit.
Such a smart collection too, right? If you look at these titles, it's such an you really have to understand the characters and the specifics of that set to understand that Spider-Man archive and X-Men archive, Fantastic Four archive, what those sets can do on their own and how expansive they can be and how specific they can be as well. Very, very intelligent decisions on how to organize this.
Well, if you, go ahead.
No, I was about to ask you a question actually, Kevin. Did you jump back in like at the beginning of the Rittenhouse period? Were you on the shop floor, as it were, for each of these?
The main one was Complete Avengers. I remember hearing about it before it was released, and then just because on that one they limited the characters to be used to 50, I believe, 35 heroes and 15 villains.
Yeah.
And I want to say around 50 artists in that set too. So I remember on that one, I was thinking, how many Spider-Mans did, how many artists would have used this character? And I was in my head, I was trying to break it down. And this was before, they put everything on the website.
Oh man. Well, that's also really cool for character collectors too, right? I mean, you could see how many characters one particular artist did.
Oh yeah. You could plan a little bit better, and then an Easter egg on Complete Avengers. Some of the artists put in the non-approved characters. So you'll see, like if you look on Warren Martinick's, he does have a Silver Surfer, and so the Silver Surfer wasn't the one characters on their approved list, but it's teamed up with a character on the list. So
love the loopholes.
So hang on a minute, Silver Surfer's been banned before?
No, not necessarily. He just didn't make the cut.
Oh dear. Silver Surfer.
I see where this conversation's going.
He comes back, he gets booted again.
I did that.
Chris, do you? There's one thing I've been meaning to ask you. Are you a collector as much as you are kind of a source of knowledge? Did you actually collect all of these things?
Oh, very much. I just didn't have deep enough pockets to buy a case of every product, but I tried to open a box of every product.
That's interesting.
That's awesome. That's the way I have to do it too.
Yeah, I went in on a case for a couple of Rittenhouse series, but we'll get to those. So, Chris, you sent over a very interesting slide here where we've got the Rittenhouse era sets mixed in with Upper Deck, kind of muscling in on the license. What can you tell us about that one from your kind of historian perspective?
Well, I'm guessing that licenses were not exclusive, and eventually they would become exclusive. In fact, even now, I think I'm not a sports card expert, but I think even now, only one company will hold Major League Baseball's license or, the NFL license at any one time. But back then, multiple companies could have the Marvel license. In fact, this is what led to Rittenhouse stop producing Marvel sets, is they thought there was too much competition in the marketplace, because you can see they were getting pounded. I mean, Marvel Masterpieces released 3 sets in a year and a half. And I think eventually Rittenhouse said, as much as we're producing, in our opinion, full color, better content, this is too much competition to have the license held by multiple card companies.
Yeah, because Upper Deck did my understanding about Masterpieces, especially 2008, and I remember reading this because the internet, of course, everything you read is true. I remember reading this on numerous sources, was that Upper Deck only had until the end of 2008 to get those Masterpieces sets out.
Yeah.
And that was a very short window of license they had there, which possibly explains why there were 2 Masterpieces in 2008, and possibly explains some of the issues they had on the QA front on that. But of course, then it goes very much back to Rittenhouse for the next few years, with the exception of the movie sets.
I guess one of my questions is, so what was that divide like for collectors? Did people prefer the Rittenhouse? I mean, Marvel Masterpiece is a pretty big name to come back, especially with, the 92, 94, 96 Marvel Masterpiece header. At this point, when these kind of started coming out, especially Marvel Masterpiece sketches, I know those are some of the most coveted and difficult to find sketches. Rittenhouse is as well, but was there a collector's divide on that? I mean, I'm pretty surprised that Rittenhouse decided to kind of pull back when this started happening.
Well, I think Upper Deck came back with Marvel Masterpieces just because of the name recognition. So, right. So you want to hit the marketplace with a splash. You're going to go with the big names, right?
Yeah.
And my opinion is that Marvel Masterpieces was kind of the Wild West. You had some very high-end artists coming in, but only drawing 3 cards, 5 cards, and talking about non-approved. Lots of weird stuff snuck into those sets, including Marvel Zombies and everything else. And I think it was a very different animal. They were not full color. There was a great difference between a very low-end sketch and a very high-end sketch. It was wild.
I could imagine, because I've seen a range from like Marvel Zombies to like full guns and ammo craziness. I've seen quite a range of weird art styles, not weird as in like bad, weird as in just awesome. Just such a wide range of things. And now, I mean, if you've ever seen one of these band lists that artists get now, pretty much it's everything that was ever done in Masterpieces. Guns pointing at people, whatever the case may be. All these list of bands is highly specific because of what was done in the past.
Well, one of the interesting things that I find about this is that when you look at the kind of, going from the late 80s into the 90s, the noughties, and right through to now, Marvel Masterpieces 2007 is the kind of the first set that I'm aware of that went back to Riff on, it was a 15-year anniversary of Masterpieces 92. So it was kind of the first resurrection of that 90s brand, which Rittenhouse then went on to do with Marvel Universe. So possibly having had an eye on, okay, well, if they can do it, why don't we have a go? I mean, I'm speculating here, but it kind of does make sense for how you'd look at that.
And I do want people to know that during this time period, there was, and correct me if I'm wrong, guys, there's no original art like we know now being used for these base sets, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. It was all recycled art on those for the base sets.
Yeah, so you really were just cracking boxes for at least for original art hunters, right? Like people looking at, you know, we're kind of spoiled now with 2016 and 2018, you know, every card, and even Fleer Ultra, Spider-Man, X-Men, each one of those cards are painted. Each one of those cards have original art that was created specifically for that set. And you don't really get that during this time period in the, you know, late, early 2000s type of situation. So really what you're cracking these boxes and cases for were either autographs or sketch cards.
Yeah.
And then
because I'm just
Upper Deck, I believe the art director at that time was Mark Irwin, I believe, something like that.
Correct.
And he actually had some sketchograph cards from back in the Fleer Skybox days. So I think he was familiar with, sketch cards.
Wow.
And a lot of the artists that he got, the bigger name artists, were friends of his or people on his contact list. So that's why you see such big hitters in those sets.
Wow.
Which
Right.
is that masterpieces you're talking about?
Yeah, especially the 2007 one.
Right. So you would send your submissions to Mark Irwin when you were trying to get on the Marvel Masterpieces Upper Deck sets. But do you know who the talent acquisition guy was for Rittenhouse?
Oh, hit me.
They brought in Warren Martinek as the talent acquisition guy. So he was the guy that would, hire you or not pass you through.
Interesting.
Wow.
Okay.
So you would have an actual artist recognizing these kind of points and really understanding the ranges of artists and what they were doing. Wow, fascinating.
That's fascinating, and obviously put an awful lot of his own sweat and blood into that as well. Funnily enough, I've been having a back and forth with Mr. Martinek over possibly doing an intro for the podcast. So he's a busy man, but very, very lovely to talk to. Have you ever interviewed either of those two guys, Chris?
I have not. I would love to. They're both excellent and well respected, but very busy guys.
Oh yes. Yeah,
and
sure
just so people know, if you do go to Warren's website, he actually catalogs all of his cards as well. So if it's not on this Rittenhouse site and you are a collector of his, do check out his personal site because he does keep a pretty good catalog there.
So obviously, Kevin, you were on board from Complete Avengers in 2006. Knowing you've kind of gone back and dabbled with bits from these sets, but you weren't kind of buying them at the time. Is that right?
Yeah. So basically, when I started getting heavy into the sketch cards, is because I saw a Surfer, and I kind of lost my mind. And from that point on, I started looking at Fantastic Four Archive, and then I collect a couple of DC things, and Rittenhouse DC is just so far just amazing. And from there, I just kind of started dabbling, but I've never cracked a case or a box. Unfortunately, I've never had the pleasure.
Well, you will, I'm sure. And Chris, we know you were kind of buying, a box of each as you went along as a collector. It's interesting this because I came in with Masterpieces 2007. That's when I came back to that's when I came to the hobby, really, having just dabbled with it a little bit in the 90s. And so and I didn't pull any Masterpieces sketches from, they were actually available to buy in Forbidden Planet in the UK, which was, you couldn't get any of these other sets in stores in the UK. And I never got a sketch card from there. And it's only afterwards that I get a sketch card. But then Spider-Man Archives is the one where I waded in and then some. And I think that's when I first started ordering from Ed Webb, Sci-Fi Cards. I have a feeling that may have been the first time I ordered from him in America, and excellent service ever since on that front. But Spider-Man Archives, of course, Black Cat.
Yep.
Featured heavily. So in the same way with Fantastic Four Archives, if you're going to go into a set that has your girl in there, Spider-Man Archives is the one. I think it's worth noting, the set design pretty much, even though it's not original art, I'm a massive fan of the actual set design of the Rittenhouse sets, because they were designed to complement the people who would, store, which is pretty much everyone, in the 9-card pockets. Every set you could buy binder. There were different promo cards, some of which that came exclusively in the binders. In fact, pretty much every binder you got an exclusive page, like just a single nine pocket page in there with the promo card that was exclusive to that binder, very, very carefully inserted. But I have a feeling, I can't remember, it might be Complete Avengers or one of the other sets, had an exclusive autograph card with the binder. I want to say it's Complete Avengers, so I'm just going to go back to that as well. Here we go. Yeah, Roy Thomas. So if you got a Complete Avengers trading card binder, you got a Roy Thomas autograph card.
See, this is the type of stuff I miss. The binders, the marketing, the kind of extras you can have, archive cuts. So actually, side question, was this the first time for archive cuts in trading cards for Marvel superhero cards?
Well, for Marvel cards, definitely. That was the first, and they're oversized. These ones
really
are big. Yeah.
Oh, are they?
I've never seen one. That's crazy. Yeah. Wow. So it's not standard card size. It's actually like 5x7? I mean, you don't have to give me a number.
I mean, look, let's pull one up on screen. I mean, look at the size of the panel.
Right. You get 3. That's like 3 Upper Deck cards right there.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
big. The set was designed beautifully. It might not have had original art, but like Ian said, everything was designed for a binder. So you had these 9-page complete, beautiful pieces. And, I don't know. I have such admiration for this company and everything they did. It's just, and the things they've did as well echo all the way to modern Marvel cards now. So anybody coming to the hobby, you're looking at pieces that really were kind of invented and have been taken from the Rittenhouse years.
These are just astonishing. I'm going to save some of these as I go along, just to include with the tasting notes, even though people can obviously just go to the Rittenhouse website and have a look yourselves. And
on this as well, they put the issue and page number from where the comic clip came from.
Yes.
Fascinating.
And that looks handwritten.
I think so too.
Yeah.
Or
the other image didn't have anything written on there, so it has to be.
Yeah, should I say handwritten house? Anyway, so I'm sorry. I know it's too early for you for that kind of joke.
And if you look at Renee Deleuze, I think she did the most, and she for this set she did 399 cards. Can you imagine?
Wow!
Good Lord!
And
good Lord!
The vast majority of them are pretty nice.
Yeah,
that's insane. I mean, I wonder what's the highest number on here. I mean, that has to be one of the highest.
That one.
On Women of Marvel, I saw a higher number. I saw 550 by Dos Santos.
Oh, Santos. Whoa.
And there's 616 from Yuko Smith.
Oh, Yuko, man. Yuko's a beast.
On Women of Marvel, which probably explains why I've got one. I've got very few from Women of Marvel. Because that had already come out, and it was furiously popular, if I remember back at the time. So this is kind of the time that I became familiar with Scoundrel, as it was kind of the place where everyone seemed to be going to talk about the sets, but very much with a focus of talking about the art. And it's the first place I saw the artists mixing with the collectors, mixing with the dealers, and having that interaction, and APs were arranged and things like that. Chris, were you on Scoundrel back in the day? He says with air quotes. Have we lost Chris? Chris, talk to us, Chris.
I'm sure he'll come back. I'm sure Chris was on there hard. I mean, Kevin, you were, I think I've seen you on there, right, brother?
I was on there. I haven't been on there in a while, but it seems like a whole bunch of people haven't been on there in a while.
I think.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
which is
I think that,
back then, place. That was the place to be, to find all your information about these sets that were coming out. The artists would be on there and they'd post their cards.
I remember that was the first place I went to. That was the first place I went to as a collector when I was like Googling images of Sketchographs. That was the first place I kind of jumped to, and seeing all these conversations being had. Just fantastic. Also, and I'm sure we'll do this for an actual episode, Ian, but I'd love to deep dive on the web and find all the sites that major collectors were putting up there of their own site for their own collection, right? Yeah. Some of them still exist. One of the more famous ones is of what's his name? Ed. Is it Ed? I'll remember in a second. But some of these sites had just like catalogs from these sets. You know what I mean? Just full collections, full artists' collections. So an artist collection is basically a sketch card from every artist that was on the set. And I believe we call that an artist's sketch card collection, and just an entire piece basically showcasing every artist's work. Yeah. Those websites are partially dead now, unfortunately. Some are still around. A lot of them have AOL email contacts.
Yeah. The frustrating thing about that is when you do go back to Scoundrel and you look at it, you see a lot of the links. You got to remember that Scoundrel was around the era of MySpace, being used, and sites like PhotoBucket, and people just don't. A lot of the links were PhotoBucket, and there's so many of them are dead now.
Dead in the water, baby. It sucks, man.
You can see the posts, and you can see, I just busted this awesome Warren Martinek, and you can see the link is dead, but you still click on it in the vain hope that it might be there. But I can't tell you how exciting a place it was to be. Yeah. And my I haven't seen that this dealer is still active. I'm sure they are. I just haven't seen them around. But there was a dealer, K&J Cards. I think it was Kevin Bennett. You're nodding, Kevin. Do you know who I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still active, but what they used to do. In fact, I'm just going to Google it while we're talking. I've stopped sharing screen, but I will share it again so we can see what happens together. Start sharing. I like to share. Let me have a look. And here we go. It's Bennett Cards, Jehovah's Witnesses Ministry Supplies. That's not quite what I was after.
Wait, is that not it?
While you're Googling, is my microphone working again?
Hey, it is, yes. Hello.
Hey,
good. Yes, but I think some of the tension of the Scoundrel website is that the artists were being artists, but the collectors were being collectors. And I think the collectors would sometimes gently criticize the artists, and there was just a tension there between the three different groups of people.
That's actually really funny, because in the group, that's what we always try to avoid, right? That's because I know I feel the same way. I feel like that's what killed it. I feel there was this weird, and not that people couldn't have their opinions, but I feel like sometimes you had people, spending a lot of money on boxes and cases, and then personally feeling ripped off by a sketch that they didn't necessarily find subjectively, to their standard for the money value, for the art value. And I think that created just this really weird hostility, and that kind of grew and grew and grew because, there was no monitoring of that, unfortunately.
Yeah, it's interesting. So I can see K&J non-sports cards. So the reason I was going on to this is because it's interesting how the sets were released. So obviously the dealers would have the product in advance of the release date. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, the release was the 1st of May, and they would have the stock in, the latter days of April, and be able to start breaking it and busting it. I think they got a very firm slap across the wrist if they actually put anything on eBay or put anything on sale anywhere. But I remember being up at 5 a.m. in the UK, and being on chat with people from Scoundrel, and being on the list for K&J sports cards, who would email out to people whose email addresses they had from Scoundrel 9 card scans, and they would email one every couple of minutes, because they were quite high res scans. Yeah, they were. And they would do this for 2 to 3 hours of all the sketches they'd busted from the product over the last few days while they were doing it, and then they would save the scans with the incentives until the end. So if you were in for the whole thing, and what you would do is, as soon as you got the email, you would reply and say, because it was a 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, as you go along, and you could say, and he would literally send an email, and all the text in it would be $1, $50, $2, $70, $3, $40, $4, $90, like that, and you would literally just reply, "I'll have number 4" to that email. And it would be fastest finger first. Whichever email they received first, claiming a sketch, would get it.
Wow!
So I remember, the first breaks that I was party to, and then nowadays people do it on Facebook and they video it. But this was fascinating. So so the dealer would be able to sell a good 30, 40, 50%. I'm guessing here, but a good chunk of that sketch. That came out of a box, and if they were selling a sketch at say $50, and the majority of them were probably a bit more than that, they'd have made their money back on the RRP from the box. But of course, they're not buying at box level; they're buying at multiple case levels. So I imagine that was probably quite an interesting sort of model to go after. But and I've still got emails with a lot of the scans in.
Oh wow!
From the sets that were coming over, although I think the ones I've got are heroes and villains and kind of the later ones.
Ooh, that's a good
which
one.
Which is interesting, because a lot of the later you go, the less is documented on the on the Rittenhouse side.
Yeah.
So I think it's 70th anniversary in Heroes and Villains. I think I've still got a lot of the emails from both of those, including a lot of the Warren Martinek sketches, and I remember sharing them on the MCCW group when it first started. There were very few members, and that was good content to put on there. I remember, here's a daily kind of archive thing that I've got from breaking sets back in the day on Scoundrel.
Wow.
And it's just absolutely fascinating that this is how sets used to come out.
Yeah, he would send out 50 emails at least. 50,
easily.
Right? And nine cards on each email.
In fact, I'm pretty sure I've still got them. You can see my screen. So let's just have a look at one of those emails. Let me just bring one of them up. If my Google will actually respond. Kevin Bennett, come on, Google.
Right,
I've
then
got
he would
so much
tell
power
you
on
back.
my computer.
Sorry, that card is already sold.
Yeah, it was really frustrating. So.
God, nightmare that must have been. I will never complain about eBay again.
But it was actually it was one of the fairest ways to do it. Think about it. Here we go.
I mean, it makes sense, right? You have your email list. I mean, we kind of, the group kind of does that too, which that's one of my favorite parts about the group. And what we do is, well, I mean, we're all friends and stuff like that. If we see a card that, is not necessarily our interest, but has a character that someone else wants, I get hit up pretty constantly.
Here's one of the emails. This was sent on the 14th of April 2010. So there's one of his emails. It's just got prices laid out in the grid, and then you look at the picture.
Wait, those are the prices?
Yeah.
Yep.
Those are nice prices.
So, if you look at that, I'm sure Pankit would be very happy to have that cap for 110 right
No
now.
kidding.
Even that Deadpool there. Look at that.
I take all of those.
Gun,
that Dazzler
with a gun
sick.
going straight. You wouldn't be allowed to do that Deadpool now.
Not at all.
At all.
Okay, so I have a question for the group then. And I was holding this, but I'm ready to ask. Okay, favorite Rittenhouse layout. So like this one has like Marvel and the red border. Let's go down the line. Chris, what's your favorite?
Well, let me talk about something I am very jealous of. When Complete Avengers came out, the incentive or the hidden chase was the 100 Stan Lee sketch cards.
Oh,
When Fantastic Four came out, the hidden chase was renowned artists that only drew in black and white. So every box came with a color sketch card, but you could pull a black and white sketch card of people like Joe Quesada or John Romita Sr.
Oh,
The hidden chase on Fantastic Four archives, if you'll go down a little bit, were these black and white ones right there. And so what I have always wanted and never owned is one of those.
so this is going to be devastating, and we can all cry together because we're more than friends. We're a support group. But Chris, I think you spoke about this on your blog. There was one that came out. I think it's the black and white. Fenwick has it, of course, who I don't want to talk about right now because he just makes me cry. Fenwick has it, and it's a black and white, and I think it's the Silver Surfer by Joe Sinott.
Oh.
And I think it's the black and white. Chris, you've seen this. Kevin, you've seen this, right?
It sounds expensive.
I don't want to talk about it, Chris. Anyway,
and yet you are.
It came up on eBay. It came up on eBay. I had to compromise a lot of my morals and hold back, unfortunately, but it was very expensive and beautiful. But I've seen a couple of these black and whites hunting for surfers, and they're gorgeous.
No, it's funny on this one, on these black and white, Scott Kobish, he did
Coblish, I think.
Yeah.
he did 6 cards. I've had 3 of them in my collection.
What?
Yeah,
You're
just
kidding me. So you've got 50% of that particular artist's input.
well, not
into one set.
anymore.
Oh, okay.
I think I have 2.
Wow. Damn, Kevin.
But you know, because these black and white ones are lower on the website, not many people actually are aware of them and just think, oh, I just got a bummer sketch, because it was an extra sketch, right? So,
Well, did you guys remember seeing oh man, what's the name of the living planet?
Ego.
Ego. Yeah. Such a good use of that in Guardians of the Galaxy 2, by the way. Such a good use of that character with Kurt Russell. But Ego, there was one on eBay. I'm sure you guys remember this. And it was a black and white Fantastic Four archive sketch. And it was of Ego.
oh,
And it's gorgeous. I think Fenwick has it. But it's just absolutely beautiful. And it didn't go for that much because I think people were trying to figure out or didn't realize it was the black and white, one of the black and white inserts.
Yeah.
But it definitely had to be 100%. And it was such a gorgeous rendition. If I remember the audio artist, I would tell you, but I just don't remember off the top of my head.
yeah. So it's a rare card, but not many people know about it. So that's probably why it slipped. You know, the prices slipped down.
Right under the radar. Yeah.
So that's of course the other thing about this period is it very much continued the one per box sketch insert. So, you know, this is very much the era where buying the cards became less about buying the packs. It was you would buy them by the box. The majority of collectors would, at the very least, buy them by the box. I remember when I used to pre-order, I was fortunate to have there was a UK dealer who Rittenhouse sets in, and I did get some from him. But even when I didn't, and I'd order from Ed, it was always a binder and at least one box. Usually 2 or 3, but at least one box, because you were kind of getting set up for it. You know, you get yourself your binder. You'd probably have already had your promo cards because you've got the non-sport update one. Chances are you'll be able to pick up some of the other promos, especially if you're ordering from the States, from a dealer in the States. They'll probably have the promos that were released at the various shows because they were at the shows.
Yeah.
There's one thing I do miss is those promos. Here's a question: this is probably a ridiculous question, and as I say it, I realise it is a ridiculous question. Has there ever been a sketch card promo?
Oh, not to my knowledge.
It probably wouldn't, just with the volume of them that you'd need.
Yeah.
Because because we're all used to sketch cards being a particular incentive. Signed promos I've seen in existence. There was a promo for 2007 with Joe Driscoll. It was an oversized card with a panel for Joe to sign.
Yeah, that's right.
So I've seen those before. But yeah, no, the more I think about it, the more I realise that would be probably an unmanageable, unworkable thing to do. But
I think what would be really cool, and we just heard about this in the last show, it might have been in the part 2 section, where, artists who were at these cons were actually working on their sketch cards, and they would kind of like do jam sketch cards, right? Where they would have an artist next to them, the artist next to them would be like, hey, let me do the color, right? So you'd have 2 artists working on one sketch card. A really cool way to do a sketch card promo would be just to simply have a blank at like the upper deck booth, and that people can go get and go have an artist draw on that card. Licensing and all that other stuff aside, that would be a great way to have a promo card and have like the con experience as well. Which would be really cool.
Promo card would be an exclusive blank con stock.
Yes, exactly.
Nice idea.
I don't know. Some things I would love that.
Let's make it happen. Let's make it happen. Up there, Rittenhouse, if you're listening. This is fascinating. So I don't know if we're going to go through all of this today, but the format very much stayed very, very similar throughout the whole run. It was all, none of it was original art. And they did actually repeat some stuff. So Women of Marvel got a Series 2 in 2013. There was a set called Dangerous Divas, which was again about the Marvel ladies. That got a Series 2 towards the end of the tenure in 2014. And the interesting thing about Women of Marvel and Dangerous Divas is that a lot of the inserts especially, but some of the stuff they did was designed to complement each other. So you had some of the insert sets that would actually carry on the numbering from Women of Marvel to Dangerous Divas to Women of Marvel 2 to Dangerous Divas 2. So you had this thread going through there.
Yeah.
And then, of course, they revised the Marvel Universe brand in 2011 and 2014. Legends of Marvel wasn't a sketch card series. That was just a premium series. We'll talk about that another time. Greatest Heroes, Heroes and Villains. Now, what I like about Heroes and Villains and Greatest Battles, Heroes and Villains, one of them, if I remember correctly, and I can't remember which one, and Kevin, you might know this, one of them, the sketches were all 2-parters.
I think that was Battles.
Was that Battles? Yeah, because the idea is that obviously here we go, 2-card sketch puzzle in every box. And that was in 2013. So that's an interesting change. But the good thing is you did get them together.
Yeah.
If you were breaking the box.
Yeah. How cruel would that be? Here's one part. Enjoy. Yeah. The Greatest Battles are actually some of my favorites as well. And I think what's really fun too is that the red border on the card is actually extended. I wonder, do you think, wow, okay, so this is a question for Chris and Kevin. Did the artists get the bigger version of this and then was it cut down and cut in half?
I don't know.
Wow, I wonder.
You would think so, and then they just cut it.
And then they would just cut it. Yeah, if that's what they can. I mean, this is 2012. Complete Avengers was what, 26? 06?
Yeah, 06.
Yeah, 06.
Yes.
So maybe not.
A few years down the road here.
Yeah.
But look at some of these. So 6-case incentive on Marvel Greatest Battles in 2013 was a 2-card puzzle sketch featuring the work of Megan Hetrick. Good evening, Megan. We love you.
She's awesome.
Dearly. And the 9-case incentive was a 4-card puzzle sketch featuring the work of Warren Martinek. So here's a question for you. The first time I saw them was on Masterpieces 2007. But sketch cards that would be part of a puzzle, was that when they started, or did they actually start doing them on Complete Avengers?
Well, there was a puzzle. There was a couple puzzles that the artist did for Complete Avengers, but they weren't inserted all together, so you had to try to piece it together.
Yeah. That was the same with Masterpieces as well.
Yeah.
I distinctly remember for the longest time people posting and saying, has anyone got the other half of the list?
God, that's so cruel.
Yeah, that must have been tricky to do. I don't think I actually own any
So I think that's why
multi-part
it's not
sketches.
with the battles.
Well, it's funny because I always see these sketch cards on eBay and I'm like, I wonder if that connects to something else because it looks like it. I've seen a few where I'm just like, that has to be a puzzle piece.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's interesting, and of course, as they developed throughout the years, so we're touching on the base cards a lot, but I think it's very important to look at the sketch cards as part of the overall offering of what Rittenhouse did, because the set itself was exceptionally good quality, but it was kind of, they marketed the set using the sketch cards, but it wasn't a sketch card solely focused sketch card set. You can kind of tell from the way they did the sell sheet, but kind of towards the later one, they started doing some of these things where you had the red and the gold and the different color parallel sets, some of which were exclusive to the archive sets as well, the archive boxes.
Yep. I think that started with 2013 Women of Marvel.
Women of Marvel 2.
Fascinating.
Yeah, you had that ruby parallel set, didn't you? On some of these. So, in fact, let's go and have a look at this one, because the wonderful thing I like about the Rittenhouse sets, I don't know if they did it through in the entirety of the license, but those sell sheets that you mentioned, you can when you go onto the site. So I'm on Women of Marvel 2 now. There's a link at the top for color ad page, so you can download a high-res PDF of what would go into non-sport update and what would be printed. So that was the advert that was in non-sport update.
The best, man. I love that so much that they did that, because it's just, if you have a collector who wants to not pay $100 for a sell sheet now, they can print their own. You know what I mean? They don't have to wait for a flipper or a scalper or any kind of stuff like that. They can kind of just still enjoy the product. And I don't know if this is true or not, but did those sell sheets or that one-page color ad come in the binder as well?
No, not
right?
that I've experienced. No,
that's just what we collectors do.
Yeah, no. I don't know if they still produce them as separate standalone sell sheets in the later years. I know they did for a lot of the earlier ones. In some cases, I've actually kept and clipped the page that had the add-on from non-sport update.
Clever.
So I've got a lot, especially for the Masterpieces sets in 2007, 2008, because they didn't do sell sheets and there weren't any binders. So they're actually quite handy to have as things to slide in the front of a binder, which is always good. But yeah, I mean, the thing is, there are so many sketches. These were not, I don't know what sort of quantities of boxes and cases they put out, but I don't remember there being, I remember there being an awful lot of sketches every time one of these sets dropped.
I think they're, Complete Avengers, and then the later ones, I think they were in that 8,000 range, 10,000 range. I think X-Men Archives was 10,000.
Okie dokie. So they clearly scaled it up.
Yeah. Oh, and then a funny tidbit about the X-Men Origins Wolverine set.
Yes.
I think they were, for the set itself, they limited the characters to like 5 or 6, something like that.
Really?
Wolverine, Gambit, Sabretooth, Blob. Is that 5? I think that's 5. But
wow, so only those 5 characters?
Yeah. So those are the ones that came in the packs. But for X-Men Archives, they added like 5 in the archive box, 5 cards from the Wolverine set. So those were artists that might not have made the list or the box for Wolverine, and or characters that weren't those 5. So, for example, I have a Hulk from that set, from that archive set, but it's a Wolverine.
Oh. That's interesting.
Wow,
that's really interesting.
So crazy. I mean,
people were so upset during that time, right? Because you're trying to make a master set And now all of a sudden you have a new influx of characters and artists. I think, but I think there's only maybe five more artists, something like that. But the characters could have been Hulk, Juggernaut, all sorts of different characters.
Oh, that must have drove collectors crazy.
I remember there was such an outrage about that. There's so upset. People worked so hard at that master set. And then there comes the archive box with more cards, more artists.
I think what cracks me up too, I got to get a Jubilee from the X-Men archive set. Actually, I got to find a Jubilee I really, really like from the X-Men. I know I like that Jubilee. Ian's like rolling his mouse over. Is like, this one, Fausto? I was like, yes.
That's Louis Antonio.
Oh God, I like Louis Antonio. I think he does great work.
He speaks highly of you.
Oh, does he really?
He does indeed. So are you, Chris? Are you still with us, or was your microphone gone screwy again?
Oh, it looks like his microphone.
I think his microphone's having some issues. Poor guy.
Oh, bless him. Well, Chris, stay with us. If we hear your voice return to us, like Lazarus from the dead, then we'll be very glad of it. I'm looking at the list of some of these artists, and an awful lot of these are still active. An awful lot of them are still active, but not in Marvel.
Yes.
And for example, we when we spoke last week to Greg, the number of Star Wars sets that Topps are putting out at the moment, and of course there are other licenses that other companies are putting out, such as Red Sonja, Vampire Ella, and the creator sets as well.
Great sets.
Some of these guys are starting to come back in. As we know from the group, so some of the there's at least one artist, and I'm not going to kind of openly say this now because he's posted in the group, but there's at least one artist who used to work on a lot of the Rittenhouse sets who kind of went away from doing cards and has come back and is now on one of the Upper Deck sets that's due to be released this year. I find that fascinating, but some of these artists, of course, that where are they now?
And that artist who's coming back is epic. People are going to be so excited about this. It's just going to be mind blowing.
But there's some interesting. I look at these, and I always fixate on this one because of the fact that his cat is one of my top cats. Is an artist simply named Oak, and he hasn't done that many sketches, but he's listed it. I've known nothing about him at all. So if anyone has a line on who the artist known as Oak is, where he is, what he does, what's he doing now, and if he wants to come on the podcast so that I can just fawn over him for half an hour about the black cat that he did for Spy Bound Archives, then hit me up on 1-800 collect cards. But there's one particular artist called Dave Simons whose name always pops out at me because I discovered his work on Women of Marvel, and he did the really traditional, very early style black cat.
Yes.
He sadly he has passed away some years back now, and I only kind of found this out as I started to really get into his work. He passed away in 2009. He was an American comic book artist, so he was pretty prolific, and his sites, a lot of the sites are still there and still up and maintained. I'm on his site now. You can see a picture of him there. But he did some astonishing work, and he was very much a comic artist that came over and did some sketch cards. So, as a lot of these early sketch artists was. So, for those who haven't, it's just a personal thing. I wanted to drop into the episode. There's hundreds of artists that we could mention. I just kind of wanted to mention for those who might not know of his work, go back and check out the artist Dave Simons. Because you won't. Wow,
and they have an archive of the cards he did on the site too, the sketch cards.
Exactly. So I'm just about to click in this, and I'll include this on the tasting notes. This is why I like his black cats. I own. So cool. I think I own that one, and I own a couple of the others. But someone who was a big collector of his work sold their collection about 8-9 years ago on eBay, and I was lucky enough to grab a couple of black cats. But yeah, so strongly recommend you checking him out. And that's the beautiful thing about this Rittenhouse site is go there, especially on the earlier sets, dive in, have a good look at the art, have a really good, feel around really as to how these how many sketches these artists used to produce, the quality of the art that went with them, and how much of it you can still very, very much see linked on the site. It's astonishing. Take a day.
Really, no. I mean, if you're a sketch
your eyeballs for a
collector,
walk.
look, just to all the listeners out there, if you are getting into sketches for the first time or you are a sketch collector now, this will really give you a good education on the range of styles that exist.
Yeah.
And if you're looking to get an AP from someone who's not really being tapped all that often, this is another great way to get a good name and to see their level of work. This is all I did when I first got into the hobby and first started doing commissions, was looking at these artists and seeing cards that I was just blown away by.
Yeah, it's just I'll go back to Spider-Man Archives because that was the one I went big on. I didn't buy that much of the actual product, but I went nuts on the sketches. Absolutely nuts on the sketches. I was like a three-legged dog in a forest.
So how excited do you guys get when you see that scarce next to an artist name of a sketch card you get? Be honest.
You don't. It could be 50. It could be. I don't know. It's under 50.
Oh, that kills me.
I didn't realise that John Romita had done sketches for Spider-Man Archives.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh my goodness, I never knew that to this day. I don't know. Maybe I told it and I've forgotten it. There's a number of things I've been told that I've forgotten in my life is endless. But some of these, I'm looking down and I must have a black cat by at least half of these people.
See, that's the thing to do, Ian. That's the idea I keep playing with. I think I've spoken to Kevin about this, of going for a surfer from every artist of the Fantastic Four archive set.
Do it.
No, don't put that on me. How dare you? What is wrong with you, man? Why would you say that to a collector? That's some sick stuff, Ian.
It's the Nike slogan. Just do it.
No, I had about 12. I think I showed Kevin back ago. And Ian, I'm sure you've seen them come and go. But I had about 10 or 12, and I could have done it. I slow down. It drives me crazy.
If you're not feeling it, then fine. And it's not exactly an easy thing to do these days.
No, it's very hard to do. I might do it one day. Like if I get a good number all at once, I might just go ahead and bite the bullet. But I mean, Ian, if you have half, you have to be close, right?
Well, I mean, I don't know if I have half. I've probably got. I'm looking at the names. I've got Kirsten Allen. I've got Katie Cook. I haven't got because I think she did that chibi style, and I'm not a fan of that, so I wouldn't actually want to own a sketch by.
Oh, that's right. You don't want
in that style because it's just not my cup of tea. So it's one of those things. Immediately, I rule myself out because I'm a fussy so and so.
See, I am too, though.
Yeah.
Kevin, are you the same way as that? I mean, how many do you have an artist set of this? I know you have everything, but
not of Spider-Man. I do have one of Complete Avengers.
Really?
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Nice.
Maybe except for Cat Skaggs, but that was insane.
Yeah.
I got Stan Lee, so the one.
See, that's the one though. That's the one that matters.
You're right. It took forever.
I'm gonna try and add Chris back in because he has dropped off. So I'm gonna try and add him back in. Let me just see what happens. So do you? So Kevin, I get the feeling your collection is very heavily. Oh, he says he's unavailable. Oh well, bless him. Sorry, Chris.
We'll get him back.
We'll get him back. The thing is, he needs me to add him to the call.
Oh no, I meant for another show in case.
Oh yeah. Of course. We'll resurrect him. We'll gather round. You've got an awful lot of sketches from the early days. Does that carry right through? Have you still got as many of the later sets, including the later Rittenhouse years, as you have for the earlier sets?
No, because after my daughter was born, I had to slow down a lot. So.
Tell me about it. Yeah. Yeah, I got a bit quicker when I'm chasing her around, but yeah.
It's tough, man. You have.
Ooh.
Breaking up a bit there, Kevin.
Sorry, Kevin. Yeah, I think you're breaking up, brother.
Oh, sorry.
There you go. Try again. You're back.
Okay. Woo. Yeah, I think the majority of my collection is probably from the 2006 to right in that 2009, 2010. And then it kind of slows off a little bit. And then when Rittenhouse went to the insert cards, with the Women of Marvel, I started getting more into the insert cards. So not as many sketch cards for that later 2012 on to 2015.
Yeah.
I mean, I have to say, I still buy Black Cat sketch cards, but nowhere near the volume, and that's because I'm chasing the limited inserts.
Yeah,
and I can't do both.
Yeah, those rainbows are tough, man.
Yeah, but some of them cost more than
Well, the sketch cards,
decent sketch cards.
Yeah, and that's really, collecting a band character card band character is impossible because even if you have a sketch that's and not because of the art, just maybe because of the name or the quantity or anything like that, you might have a sketch come up on eBay, but it might be the only Surfer sketch that's been on eBay in like 3 weeks. You know what I mean? And like vultures, these other Surfer collectors, not me. Other people, the sicker Surfer collectors, people who can't handle their stuff, come out of the woodworks and start bidding. But it's really tough. I really envy a lot of the like Venom collectors and Wolverine and Spider-Man collectors because you really can have your picks. I've never pulled a Surfer sketch card. You know what I mean? And won't in years. You know what I mean? And I know a lot of Surfer collectors. Probably another one who's never pulled a Surfer sketch card either, really, just because we've been like we started opening packs after the ban, which is a pretty cool thing to think about for other character collectors out there. But yeah, pulling these sketch cards, it's definitely an investment. You have to not investment, but you kind of have to pick and choose your battles.
You're like Kelly McGillis in Witness. You've been shunned by the Amish community.
You might need to get a Fantastic Four archives box one day.
You know what? You guys keep putting this stuff on me. You want me living in a box. That's what it is. I know what it is. I can sense it. You know what? Let's go on eBay.
You can do it.
Let's see. I think I saw one, and I talked myself down, and today's the day, baby.
So the thing for me with Rittenhouse is I sketch cards aside, I do want to own one of each of the binders, and then gradually fill out the sets from there. And that, for me, that tends to be my starting point. I like to have the binder, and then get the set. But the case, there was one set that I got a case of from Rittenhouse. See if you can guess which one. Do you want me to bring the list of the products up on the screen again so you can see? You got one case. I got a case of one of the Rittenhouse releases. I think one, maybe two actually. So let me just scroll through this list and you can have a look and. I'm gonna
Spider-Man or one of the Divas.
Oh, it might be one of the Divas. I've seen enough Divas from your collection to assume it's a Diva.
It was Dangerous Divas, the first one.
Yes.
The Spider-Man Archives, I was a bit late to I was kind of just as it was releasing, I was like, oh, okay. And I've got the binder for that. But yeah, Dangerous Divas, I got a case of. And do you want to know how many Black Cats I pulled from that case?
How many?
One.
Oh.
Just one?
At least I got one. At least
you got one, man. We just saw that 6-card Black Cat by
Scott Barnett. Yeah,
by Scott Barnett. Who had that? Matt Fuller?
My friend Scott. And I actually, this is the interesting thing, and this could be a kind of a nice way to kind of cherry off on the top of this episode because we'll probably have to wrap soon. But is that there's a couple of things. When I look at this website. And I did just now on Spider-Man Archives, I click on an artist and one of the card that comes up I own. That's a nice feeling.
Yes.
That is a really nice feeling. I love that.
And so that's one of it. The other thing is that I have made personal friends who I'm still in, who I've met, who I still keep in contact with, and I see them have family, and I see them doing things in life who may not be doing sketch cards anymore, as a result of getting into collecting Black Cat and sketch cards by these artists.
Yeah.
And I don't know of any other community where that would necessarily happen. Comic book creators tends to be a little bit more arm's length. They will have fans who are passionate about them, but
it's hard because that hobby's so large, right?
Exactly.
With sketch card collecting, it is so intimate, and in a way we kind of fuel each other, especially with artist proofs, right? Where there is this kind of constant back and forth and this kind of hands-on approach to, oh, here's someone's art I like, here's something I can collect, and you get to know the person. Yeah, it's really strong. It's a really strong experience for sure. Oh my God, I want that Rogue. Who's that Rogue by? Bush?
Oh, so I'm looking at Dangerous Divas. Top shelf, top one, is that?
That's the top one. Don't ask me like, oh, do you want the top one?
No, I can't. No,
you know that Rogue I want. You know my style.
I don't know. I've got no idea, dear. It changes from day to day. Listen, since the last time we spoke about it, you've sold that Perner Silver Surfer sketch.
I knew you were going to bring that up. I knew you
we talked about on an episode, and I thought you can't go talking about a prized part of your collection on an episode and then flog it 2 minutes later. I'm
that is so rude.
I sincerely hope you got something good for it.
Okay, you know what? You almost made me reveal what I got. Tricky. That was good, though. That was impressive.
It was a good attempt.
I will be honest. I love that card to death, and that card didn't go on eBay.
To a good home.
It didn't sell for a quadruple the price like other people do. Oh, I want that magic too. It didn't do any of that kind of stuff. It went to another surfer's hands, and it will be there until the day he's gone or sells it like I did. So it was not gone unnecessarily, frivolously.
I've been having to think about this, and if I suddenly snuff it and pass away, I want my Black Cats to be distributed, one per group member, on a random raffle basis.
Oh, that's really nice. I want mine burned so no one else can have my surfers.
Kevin, what's happening to yours?
I'm sorry, what?
What's happening to your... Sorry, we've just gone morbid. What's happening to your sketch cards if you suddenly cease to exist? Shuffle off this mortal coil. Become an ex-Kevin.
My daughter.
Oh, that's nice. We thought you were going to give them to us. Anyway, bye, Kevin. Oh, wonderful. I'm going to wrap us now, folks, because otherwise people will still be listening to this in 2022. So I'll put as many of these links as possible up on the tasting notes, but to be honest with you, there's kind of only one link you need, and that's the Rittenhouse Archives website, which confusingly isn't rittenhousearchives.com. It's Sci-Fi Hobby, but it will be on the tasting notes, and we'll put that on the social feed as well. Chris, I know you're not on this anymore, but thank you for jumping on. Kevin, thank you for getting up so early. We didn't even touch on like cards where they started messing around with the format, like having holes in them, like you sent, which is worth touching on just before we sign off.
Gosh, I didn't see that.
Because look at this. It's the Warren Martinek Red Skull card, and this wouldn't be allowed for several reasons, mainly because Red Skull is holding aloft a smoking World War II era gun, and also because the artist has made it look like, and pushed through from the back of the card, bullets have come through the card. 6 of them. There are actual holes in that card.
And I remember seeing that one on eBay.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you own that?
I do not have that.
Oh.
Someone bought that fast, because I would have even gotten that. Personally, I would have bought that. That's just too brilliant. I don't even collect Red Skull, not even the least. That's amazing.
But this is what I love about the era that Rittenhouse had the cards, is artists started playing around with the format in so many different ways, too numerous to mention. This is one of the more notable examples. Of course, you had all the subset stuff that artists used to do. There's a guy in the group who collects a particular artist called Goonie Tunes, who did the eyes of characters.
Yes.
But
John
there
Curry,
are,
I think.
yes, that's right. He collects him. He's Australian. But you've got these sketch cards here that Kevin, you sent this one through. It's just an example of an artist, so it doesn't zoom in very well on my screen. They're Warren Martinick ones.
Yeah, he did cover recreations for
each issue.
25. I think there's 25. So on that one, there you go. You got you snuck in a Ghost Rider on there.
Oh yeah, you're right.
And then Absorbing Man, top left.
Yeah.
Wow.
At the bottom left, that is an iconic cover. That Avengers 223.
Yeah.
With Hawkeye about to fight Ant-Man. That's one of the most
off the Zero. Yeah, that's amazing.
That's one of the key kind of covers on Avengers that I recently acquired. So I love that. With this volume of sketches to do, the artists were finding really inventive ways to just keep it fresh.
Yes.
And keep it interesting.
I like to see a resurgence of this for sure. I think this is going to have to be the next step for sketch cards, just to bring something back from this, because having a bigger size, having Marvel Premiere, having panels and 5x7s, that's really nice formatting and so forth. But to have these sketch cards be more of just a drawing on a card and be more of an art piece, especially with the certain interpretations, the changing to the materials. Like, we've seen sketch artists put like gold leaf down. We've seen sketch artists put, glitter or paint structures or, make it kind of a 3D effect. Like I just got the Mitch Ballard Surfer, and the way he put the paint on there actually looks like it's stacked. So it looks 3D. Yeah, it's fascinating. Yeah, and I have a Warren Silver Surfer sketch card where he splattered white paint on it, and it looks like the stars, but it gives this like double texture effect where it looks dimensional. It's fascinating things people were doing. Very inventive, very much art pieces than just simply a drawing on a card, which I really think we should come back to.
Yeah. Well, on that note, thank you for listening, everybody. We'll put as many pictures as we can on the tasting notes. Thank you, Kevin, for getting up so early.
Oh, you're welcome.
Thank you,
had
buddy.
Breakfast yet?
No.
Right, go and get some breakfast. Norrin, go and get second breakfast.
Done.
I'm going to go and start getting dinner ready because I'm in the UK. You may or may not know. We're going to reuse an existing artist intro for this episode. We've got loads in the bag. It's just that I want to get up. We're wrapping up the episode, and I want to have time to have that artist. If we're going to use a new one, to have a bit of exposure, so we will reuse. Let's have a look at the list here. Right, you can help me choose here. Who should we reuse for this episode? We have on this list. Let's reuse. Should we? Peter Scanlan. So we give him another shake of the tail.
Hit it.
There you go.
Well, Peter Scanlan, thank you, sir.
Scanlan.
Peter Scanlan is an absolute dude.
Yes.
Anyone who's listening, final note, anyone who's listening who currently or used to work at Rittenhouse and you want to come on the show and talk about the process that you went to put together some of these absolutely gorgeous sets and the website notwithstanding, please do give us a shout. Norrin, awesome. Kevin, it's been gorgeous.
All right, Kevin, you're going to do this with me. You ready, brother?
Yes.
1, 2, 3.
All right.
Enjoy collecting.
Oh. One day we'll get it right.
Perfect. One day.
One day.
Enjoy collecting together.
Yeah. One day we will enjoy collecting together, yes.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you. Thanks for listening to the Marvel Card Collectors Podcast. You can subscribe via our home on anchor.fm/MCCP. Leave us a message by that link with questions, comments, or just to say hi, and we may even play on the show. We're also on iTunes, Spotify, and all major podcast platforms. Our podcast is at the MCC Pod on Facebook and Twitter, and you can find links on our Facebook page to the two groups MCCW, Marvel Card Collectors Worldwide, and MMC, Marvel Masterpieces Collectors. On Instagram, find us at MM Collectors and at Sketch Card Hive. The great music we use is called Rocket Power by Kevin MacLeod. Thanks to the collectors, artists and creators who support the Marvel Cards Fan Collective. We'll see you next time, and remember, it's a small hobby but a fun one. Make mine Marvel and enjoy collecting.